So good morning again to everyone that joined us for the third day of our seminar dedicated to plastic recycling and use of plastic recyclates for the Israeli plastic industry. After we've covered recycling and sorting and packaging using recycled material and various other topics in the first 2 days, today we're going to focus on business models, logistical aspects. We're going to talk about the agricultural sector. We're going to talk about certification and standardization. Again, a day packed with information and packed with really interesting lectures. We're going to start with a presentation from the US, from the Recycling Partnership. If you are not familiar with the Recycling Partnership, this is a good opportunity because they're a very interesting and influential organization. They are US-based, as I said, non-for-profit, and their goal is to transform recycling across the US, from towns to cities to states. And we've asked Elizabeth Schuster, who is the Senior Director of Social Change, Behavior, and Impact at the Partnership, to present us with a recent effort that they have conducted on the issue of convincing consumers to recycle. So we talk a lot in this webinar about the infrastructure and about machinery, but there's also, of course, an aspect of consumer behavior. So Elizabeth had prepared a recorded presentation. Again, the subtitles that you will see are automatic translation. So we apologize in advance for the mishaps that might be there, but it might help also to understand. This is a recording, and after that, we'll go to our live speakers. Let's go with the clip of Elizabeth.
Hello, Elizabeth Schuster here with the Recycling Partnership. I'm here today to talk with you about consumer education. So the Recycling Partnership is a nonprofit headquartered in the United States. We put private dollars to work in communities through grants and resources. We work also with all of the companies that are featured here and more organizations to create collaborative solutions. We're here to talk about consumer education, but the first place we need to talk about is access. Our first stop is access. So we can't implore the public to recycle. We can't convince people to recycle if they don't have the ability to actually do it and to be able to recycle with reasonable convenience and reliability. So that's the first stage gate. We'll talk a little bit more about that. The second stage gate is education. So we can't expect people to recycle or recycle well without knowing what goes in their recycling cart, what does not go in, and what to do with the things that don't belong in. So we'll talk some more about that. And then the third stage gate is engagement. And that's really getting at connecting to people's values, getting them to commit, getting them to set up a system and a solution in their homes, in their lives, and in their patterns. And it needs to be equitable, and it needs to account for, it really is about meeting people where they are and helping lower those barriers and tap into their drivers, motivators. So all access is not equal. That first stage gate, all access is not equal. So if we say that there are about 800 pounds of recyclables in a single family household a year, what's the best way to capture those? What kind of access do we need? So based on our research, we see this continuum of research starting at the top there on the left of the chart. No curbside is pretty much going to get you not many of those pounds per household, all the way down to curbside and carts with good education and reliable service. That's going to get you closer to the 800 pounds. But it's still, you need that education to get you beyond like half, and then you need more education and engagement to get you closer to those 800 pounds per household per year. So you can see that adding and extending and modernizing and then layering in that education is really what it's going to take to get half of the recyclables that are in those households. So we do a lot of work with this access and infrastructure because it is critical. So from a customer point of view, from a consumer point of view, it looks like, can I recycle? Is my service automatic? Do I need to sign up for something? Do I need to opt in? If I live in single family or multifamily, is it different? So that access really needs to meet those needs and be as customer friendly as possible. So also the consistency and reliability are important. We hear from residents if they don't, if their recycling isn't picked up, or if they don't hear from their leadership, local leadership, that recycling is important, that's a signal to them that they don't really need to worry about it. And that makes a lot of sense. So we have grants and we have messaging and best practices to help with those access pieces and all kinds of planning and strategies around those. We know what it looks like when this access is not met. So this is, we hear from consumers, residents, that they're frustrated, that they just want to give up, that it doesn't make sense, they're doubting the whole system. And recycling is very emotional. Like all of our sort of consumer insight research, people are passionate about it on both ends of the spectrum. So the people who are recycling and believe in it are passionate that it needs to carry through their community, and they want the leadership to get behind that and the service to align with their expectations. And then for the people who are frustrated, they're passionate about their frustrations with it. So all of that needs to be addressed before you can even get to the part of educating people. And once you start talking about educating folks, that really is them knowing what and when and how to recycle and how to do that in their program. Recycling is generally kind of an abstract concept, and people have an idea that recycling is good. We see that, we hear from our consumer insights that 9 out of 10 people believe in recycling, but far fewer are actually doing it and doing it with confidence. Another side note of our research is about 60% of people are wrong about what to do with their plastic bags, and plastics in particular create a lot of confusion for folks. So we have messaging and insights and tips for communities on how they can better educate their residents, and I'll show you some examples of that coming up. Also, it's important, I should note, multilingual, multicultural resources are also really important. So what does it look like when a community puts in this consistent and robust access, and then also educates? Well, Omaha is one of our grant communities, and they were able to see a significant increase in their recycling, what was generated and what they collected in recycling. And they're very excited about these results, as are we. So that's a signal to keep going. So what does keep going look like? Well, it looks like engagement. And this means that better understanding and meeting people's needs where they are. So it could be that it's messages from trusted advisors. It could mean signals and commitments from local leadership. Social norms are also an important part of this engagement. We pick up cues from our friends and neighbors. So empowering those ambassadors to share how to recycle and when to recycle, and support for the value of recycling. It can look like transcreation, which again is that multicultural look, not just translating, but getting beyond translating and really speaking to people with a respect and appreciation for their cultural point of view and what they're seeing in their neighborhoods and homes. And then one of our tools around the education and engagement really working is this measurement tool. It's feet on the street tracking tool, so that our team or the community team can go out and take a look at who is actually recycling and what they're putting in their carts, and give them feedback, responsive feedback to what they're seeing, so that the consumers, the residents, can make improvements. And we when we started doing this work back in 2017, we wondered, and we had heard from communities that they had a concern that residents would be discouraged by receiving these OOPS tags and this responsive feedback. And what we've seen time and time again is that as long as that feedback is friendly and supportive, that residents really appreciate it and they're hungry for information, they're hungry for feedback. And then it builds their confidence and it signals to them that, you know, the city is caring about recycling. They're taking the time to, you know, look at and advise on how to do a better job. So Grand Rapids was one of our grant cities that recently completed this tagging and tracking, and they saw a 40% reduction in their contamination, which of course then means improved quality of what they are capturing and less, you know, less material going to the landfills. But then it also, again, boosts trust from the residents. So one of the things I say when I talk about behavior change in recycling, well, talk about behavior in any sense, is that people are very peoply. Behavior is complex, but, you know, most of us follow patterns and systems in our own lives. And so there are ways that we can tap into values and patterns and really make that recycling or make those changes easier to adopt. So one of the quotes I love around behavior is what looks like resistance is often a lack of clarity. And I think that we see that again over and over, that people are really truly hungry for information. And so while it might look like they're not participating or they're not putting the right things in because they're just stubborn, it really, the first thing to check, the first way to address that is by offering clarity, offering specific information, specific knowledge on how to improve recycling. So there we have a recent Start at the Cart white paper on our website at recyclingpartnership.org. You can download that for more tips and key concepts on influencing recycling behavior. But some of the highlights are, in addition to the 3 stage gates: access, education, engagement, some of the highlights are: don't make assumptions. We've got to measure. There is often a vast lack of data in recycling programs and what's actually happening, what people are putting in, how they feel, how often they're setting out, that sort of thing. A lot of times programs are not measuring those, and they're making assumptions based on what they're seeing, what they're hearing from the drivers, or looking from their tonnage overall all the way back. But we really want to get as close to the behavior, which is in the household. We want to get as close to that as possible. We want to measure, we want to not make assumptions, and we want to change one distinct behavior at a time. So that measurement really lets us plan what we're going to focus on. And it also helps to measure when we pre and post. So did our intervention work? Did our efforts work to influence behavior? And then we want to move people generally. The idea is to move people from awareness and caring into knowing and doing and improving, and then all the way to sharing, because what we hear from passionate recyclers is they are very interested in helping their friends and family do better, helping their community do better, helping us as in all to waste less. So for decades, we've been talking about recycling awareness. Reduce, reuse, and recycle is something that most people know. Most people are very familiar with the chasing arrows, but what they aren't familiar with is what actually happens in their program. How do they participate in a good way? And sometimes how do they participate at all? A lot of people aren't familiar with their local resources. So more than 40% said they wouldn't know where to go to find information, and that they weren't sure what to do. And so that's a lot of people that we can buy with this basic education about what's recyclable, what's not recyclable. We can make a big difference just by telling them that and by reminding them of where they can find more information of their local program. The third piece here is behavior change. So giving specific feedback. That feet on the street tracking app that I showed, those people who are out tipping and tagging those carts are leaving specific information. They check one of these boxes to say, or sometimes two of these boxes to say what doesn't go in their recycling cart. And then on the right there is one specific issue that we're focusing on for that round of tagging. And again, that's the system that Grand Rapids saw 40% improvement in their quality, and we've seen that replicated in many cities. So we offer these resources, and I want to tell you a little bit about why they look the way they look, what the thinking is in the design, the strategy behind them. So first thing I want to say is these are all available on our website. You can easily customize them. You go in and you make a couple of choices for what is the right content. They're all modular. So while there might be something on this that your program doesn't take, you can make the changes to make the selection. So you choose a couple, up to 5 yeses, so 3 to 5 yeses and 3 to 5 nos. You can upload your logo even, and you put in your contact information, and then you can download those. So some of the thinking behind these are, for instance, those illustrations are very realistic packages. They are brands and items that people are commonly seeing in their homes here, and we have illustrated them to pull out some of those micro details just to take down a little bit on the distraction and really tell people somewhere between very, very, very specifically and generally what to recycle. So we want to hit that sweet spot of the right amount of information. They're colorful and they're very organized. So it's telling people what does and does not go in. We want to communicate with people at decision points. So this flyer on the left is designed to be a mailer or a refrigerator magnet, or to be posted inside a cabinet. And those are a couple of things about those as well. People responded really well to thank you for recycling. They responded well to the friendly face on the oops tag. They want the right level of detail, and they want the information, but they want it to be user friendly, and they want it to be friendly and appreciative of their efforts. And the other thing that they responded to was seeing a clear phone number and website for where to get more information. And then the final thing I will say about these is repeat, repeat, repeat. So these work as a system. Those all are, you can create these coordinating pieces and download them from our website. And we're moving people again from like being aware this kind of information is educating them, and then it is also prompting them to giving them ways to share that information with others. So we have a lot of information on our website. We're a staff of about 60. We're nearly 8 years old, and we've been working very hard for all of those years with a lot of stakeholders working on testing hypothesis and piloting ideas and refining the outputs and scaling those so that we can meet the needs quickly and strategically. So on our website, you'll find a lot of information about access and infrastructure, including policy. We have reports and toolkits and tools for that. We have, again, those education resources. We also have best practices. We have social media kits and social media best practices, that sort of thing. And then we're continually monitoring consumer knowledge and sentiment, and we're using all of that information to inform the solutions that we're creating so that we can really resonate with people and really influence their behavior. So I'd love to hear from you if you have ideas or if you have some questions that you're trying to answer. Please reach out. name again is Elizabeth Schussler, and my email is eschussler@recyclingpartnership.org. So thank you so much. It's great to be here. I'm looking forward to hearing more about all of the presentations for this program, and I look forward to hearing from you. And please check out our website at recyclingpartnership.org. Thanks so much. Have a good night.
I see that went really bad with the automatic translation of her email, but funny. But we sent over the chat some links to additional information and Elizabeth's email, and really interesting material on that website. And we hear that consumers are passionate about recycling. Interesting. So we go now back to the live presentation, and we have with us Michael Roth. He's the Managing Director of Fernholz, which is a packaging solution provider based in Germany. Michael, good morning. And
morning.
Shalom. And we asked Michael to talk with us about the standardization of the recycling, mainly of polystyrene. So thanks for joining, Michael, and the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you for the chance to share our experiences with the audience and make some promotion on our products. I just try to make that easy to see.
Yes, we see perfectly.
Yeah, okay. So my presentation now is about a niche product within the packaging industry. It's about polystyrene, and it's about recycling polystyrene. I think yesterday or the day before you already get some information by INEOS or SCS for the different ways how to recycle polystyrene. And one out of these solutions to recycle polystyrene is a so-called dissolution process. And the dissolution process we did implement, and we have an offering in today's time, which is live. So we call it the case study, how to make, how to bring recycling back into the market. And to explain you the background, I'm coming once again back to this, let's say, a very standard page, which is, but should always remind the people what they should consider if they think about recycling. Then one thing, which is on the left side, is always the question you should ask yourself is the plastic by itself, is a package by itself? It doesn't only touch plastic, it touches all relevant packaging materials. Is it by itself recyclable? And the other major item is, if you have something which is recyclable, how to bring it back into a product, how to bring it back into the circle. And we are now talking about the polystyrene. And where do you find polystyrene in today's time? In this case, in the European market. You find it quite a lot in the dairy products. And in the dairy products, you have a special machinery called FFS machines, where you fill yogurt, desserts, fresh cheese, portion packs for butter, for coffee creamer. You find it there quite a lot, and you find there the volume. It's perfectly established for these, with the best performance for these products, as you see before. And we consider approximately 200 to 250,000 tons, which are going as a sheet into this market. Then we have FS, means filling and sealing lines. So in that case, we are talking about single cups, which are made out of polystyrene. And we have there a figure of approximately 50 to 100,000 tons per year, which are going into this market. Then smaller ones is PS sleeves, which are used for the decoration of yogurt cups and trays and containers, which is approximately 3,000 to 8,000 tons per year. And other trays and lids, 70 to 100,000 tons in a year. So altogether, quite a lot of material. And the major message out of that is there is enough relevant material for which could come out of the market for recycling. And there is enough applications which would allow polystyrene to come back into the market. So the next page is trying to explain once again, if we are now talking about recycling, then we are talking about the dissolution, RPS. I think yesterday, the day before, you did learn something about mechanical recycling, monomer recycling, and bio-based polystyrene. Today, I'm only talking about dissolution. So why to use dissolution RPS? First of all, it gives you a chance to fulfill the idea of an eco-friendly packaging and to bring back recycling material. In this case, we are always talking about PCR, so post-consumer recycling, to bring it back into the food industry. And the food industry by itself is the industry which is bringing the biggest number of packages of material into the market with the shortest life cycle. So these, if you want to reduce the waste, then you have to take a look at the food industry first. The major advantage of the RPS, the dissolution RPS, is you can keep the existing infrastructure. So at the dairies, you can keep the existing machines, the filling machines. You can keep the existing labels, all the parameters you're working on today's time. You can keep that, and you can handle the RPS exactly 100% similar as the standard polystyrene, which is coming from fossil-based resources. You can, as soon as taxes and penalties will show up in Europe, there is some saying that in UK and Italy and in Spain they are on the way. So we see by using RPS, you can reduce or save these taxes and penalties. I think what is quite important is people who are in the plastic industry, they should try to to improve the image of the plastic, because the image by itself is quite poor in today's time. People are a lot more looking for paper, for carton, for whatever, and they think that plastic is a bad thing. You can make a positive marketing for your own brand, for your own product. You can improve customers' acceptance. And if you're one of the first ones who are doing that, you can even consider yourself being a market leader by using RPS in your packaging. Next page, dissolution RPS. Normally, if you speak about recycling methods, then you're always in the plastic industry, then you always separate between chemical recycling and physical recycling. The dissolution RPS is considered to be a part of the physical recycling, as you do not touch the monomer or the polymer structure by itself. You only bring the polystyrene in dissolution, and being dissolved, you can clean it, you can handle it very easy, and you can bring it back into the polymer production. And by being part of the mechanical recycling system or the physical recycling system, you have the huge advantage that the CO2 footprint by doing this way of recycling is much less compared to a chemical recycling, which you can find here, which would be a depolymerization or feedstock recycling. The dissolution RPS by itself is a project which we started together with our raw material supplier, which is Trinseo, former part of Dow Chemicals. They did split off this part and renamed it Trinseo. So the material by itself is made by this company Trinseo as one of the major 4 European raw material suppliers for polystyrene. And they introduced post-consumer recycling material into their production stream and implemented into the product. As a result out of that, these RPS grade is containing 30% of PCR. The rest is still on fossil-based. but it's a starting point to bring in PCR material into the process. As mentioned before, this dissolution process is considered to be a mechanical or physical process, and does have some advantage for the CO2 footprint. And one of the very important and major informations out of this slide is the RPS does exist in today's time in significant volumes. Several thousand tons are available and can be used immediately. And this is somehow a little bit different to other recycling methods, which are maybe actually under discussion, where you have good ideas and whatever, but if you see in reality, then you can easily find that they are only available, let's say 10 tons, 20 tons, 100 tons. And if you consider the complete market, then it's very few, very raw to find recycling materials in real quantities. The next page, unfortunately, the top one here is still in German because it's a German regulation for the food, where you can bring in recycling material. If you're considering that, then you are quite restricted to bring in recycling material into a food grade product. And what we are doing is we are encapsulating our recycling material into an ABA structure, and we are declaring the A layer by itself is virgin material. The B layer is containing the recycling material. We are declaring the A layer as a functional barrier, and by doing that, you are fulfilling the regulations of the for the food contact. And to prove that, we as Fernholz have done a challenge test together with Fraunhofer Institute, which is quite popular in Europe, and which is really very well known for all the efforts they have done for the PET recycling. And they did confirm recently that the function of the barrier of the A structure is given, and they confirmed it, and so it's something which is allowed to be brought into the market. And how does it come that the polystyrene is maybe having some advantage against other plastics? This is some curve which is describing the diffusion of some ingredients inside a polymer, and what you can see is normally you are separating between low diffusion polymers and high diffusion polymers. And a little bit by surprise, what you do see is PET, polyamide, polystyrene, polycarbonate are considered to be low diffusion polymers, and polyethylene, polypropylene are considered to be high diffusion polymers. So it means in total, you can work with a polystyrene quite easily through this functional barrier. And it does have a structural advantage against other plastics, whereas polyethylene or polypropylene most probably will never be in a position to be used in a mechanical recycling way. So now some information how we really made it live. End of 2019, we started with the project. And what we did is we did contact our customers, which are dairies. We did make some approximately 15 out of that. We made smaller tests to find out if the material is really applicable for our application. And what we did immediately see is there is no disadvantage by using RPS. Then from these 15, we did with 8 out of that, we did do more extensive tests with at least 4 tons sheet production, tested it there on the existing machines, tested the performance, tested the migration there, all the transportation tests, whatever they are doing to approve a package. and they did confirm that the RPS is showing no any different from the existing. And then with another 4, we did do these GTVs, which is a German word, which means Großtechnischer Versuch, or extensive tests with at least 10 tons of sheet. And they did confirm that there is no any deviation from the standard polymer to from the standard polystyrene to the RPS. So we had the testing phase, and during the testing phase in 2020, we did use approximately 600 tons of sheet. 150 tons out of that did end into the food industry. 450 did end in non-food applications. We did do that just simply to be sure that if you do it continuously, that you do not find any difficulty, any roadblock, whatever, within using these RPS really as constant testing. We did find customers in Germany, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Denmark, Spain, Switzerland, Austria, who did participate to the tests and who had been interested in trying these materials. Now in 2021, we are in the production phase. That means we are live. We have customers, in particular 2 dairies, which are using that on a regular base. We do supply them, and they did switch some of their standard products. They did change into RPS products, and we will do approximately 750 tons this year in RPS. So it means we are really live. And just to give you some idea, what does it mean? If you have 750 tons of plastic, of polystyrene, and if you consider the weight of each single package, then you can estimate that there is approximately 600 million pieces of plastic packaging which are containing recycling material and which are helping to reduce the use of oil, which are helping to create a market stream, how to recycle polystyrene and really to build up circle. We are still in discussion with 4 other dairies, and I'm quite confident that they will start with using RPS and decide in our favor within this year. So we are looking forward for a rollout phase, which will be in 2022. And we are forecasting in today's time 1,000 to 1,500 tons of sheet, which we will produce next year in these RPS grade. So what does the customer for these FFS, because we are only selling the sheet to the customer, and the thermoforming process is taking place at the customer. So which changes need to be done? First of all, we need to, if the sheet is in today's time a monolayer structure, then we have to modify this into a coax structure, which is quite easily because you are using at the end of the day the same materials as before, but you are separating between virgin and RPS content. You should do some machine tests, which are always which are a standard to do tests on the existing machines at the customer. Altogether, we assume if you're working continuously on the project, we are assuming a duration of time of 3 to 4 months from the decision to use RPS to be in a position to be ready to go. The conclusion, and this is now a page which is designed not by us but by our partner, by Trenseo. The conclusion: the RPS, the dissolution RPS polystyrene is the first recycled polystyrene commercialized in the food packaging industry. It's containing 30% post-consumer plastic. it's made by this dissolution, purification, recycling process. The RPS is used in a multi-layer structure in an ABA, which is already quite for a long time established for the PET packagings. We are the partner. We are Fernholz. We are the converter from the resin to the sheet. It's accepted in several European dairy companies, and it's eliminating what I did mention before. It's eliminating the investment into equipment to fill up the product, to fill up the yogurt, the dessert, the butter, whatever, which is normally needed if you are changing from one material to another. So, Fernholz,
Michael, we are out of time, so I wanted to ask you for maybe a last slide. And
this is the last one. This is the last one. So
perfect.
It's just we try to run the material in a circle. This is our offering into the market, and it's one of the first recycling rates you really find in a certain quantity in the market. Thank you for listening and maybe for considering our products.
Great, thanks, Michael. Actually, I have many questions. We don't have time, so a quick one. If you can answer quickly, have you done an LCA on the process? And can you mention just the highlights of the advantages or issues that it raised?
This LCA is not done by us, but it's part of the it should have been part of the presentation you did got 2 days before or 1 day before by INEOS. Or this SCS group, which is where different polystyrene manufacturers are working together. And if you like, I can try to get that LCI from them and transfer it to the person who is asking.
Perfect. Yes, that would be really interesting. So thanks a lot for this very interesting presentation. And again, if anybody wants to get in touch with Michael, with Fernholz, we'll be happy to make the connection. Michael, thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you. See you. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. We move ahead now to Shira Rosen. Shira Rosen is the chairman of the Israeli Packaging Institute, and she's going to share with us the new packaging design tool that we've developed together as part of this UNIDO funded project to help packaging manufacturers and brands in Israel to understand what are the considerations in order to make a packaging recyclable. Shira, good morning.
Good morning.
The floor is yours.
My presentation. Is it
yes.
on?
Yes,
okay.
It's on. We can see.
So good morning to everybody. As Avi said, I'm the chairman of the Israeli Packaging Institute and also a consultant in fields of sustainability, innovation, and cost reduction in the fields of packaging. So my responsibility in the UNIDO project was to write or suit the guidelines for designing a plastic packaging suited for mechanical recycling in Israel. We did it together, of course, with the FECA and the Israeli Packaging Institute and the aid of Vincent Moody from Serpac Suez, and PacTech is my company. So in order to suit it to Israeli conditions, we had to integrate the feasibility, quality, and profitability of the mechanical recycling, looking at elements such as the infrastructure in Israel to collect and to recycle and to sort, the know-how and the technology to make the quality good enough to be consistent and safe, and have the right functionality, and in order, of course, to be in the right business model and have the right demands and end markets required. We had to look at all the stages of the recycling, starting from the collection to see the consumer behavior and fit the collecting infrastructure in Israel, then go to the sorting and make sure we have the technologies to sort it correctly. They're quite similar to the sorting technologies that are now in Europe. Of course, the reprocessing to fit the recycling infrastructures in Israel and make it sure it will be cleaned to a monomaterial that has the right properties and consistency. Of course, the applications to make sure that we have the demand, the business model, and if needed, the food approval. We looked also about the behavior of all the stakeholders, from the producer, the consumer that has to put it for recycling afterwards, the authorities to collect it and the right regulations, and of course, the recyclers. So if I'm going to the packaging tool, so this packaging tool is only talking about plastic packaging, although we recycle other materials such as paper, glass, or cans, aluminum, and others. We suited it to the Israeli capabilities, and we will update it periodically once we have new technologies and new infrastructures. So this is what we have suited to what is now existing in Israel. But once we have new opportunities, then we will update it. The other thing is that we recommend, aside from designing it for recycling, to try and reduce the weight of the packaging, the weight of the waste, but of course, without damaging the packaging and without shortening the shelf life. We also recommend to validate what you design after you design it. We also mentioned that aside of recycling, there are other solutions of circular economy, such as reusability, biodegradable or compostability, using renewable resources. So recycling is not the only solution, but this is the solution that we are dealing in the interactive tool. We also decided that this tool will be an interactive tool, not like most of the guidelines that are in tables, to make it more user-friendly to the user. Here we talk about what I mentioned, all the parts of suiting it to the recycling stages of collecting, sorting, and we mentioned what are the technologies. I won't get into it because we don't have a lot of time. The elements that we based this tool were the following. The first one was the type of the packaging, whether it's bottles or trays or cups. The packaging dimensions, there are problems with too small packaging or too big packaging. Of course, the composition of the packaging, if it's a monomaterial or a compatibility with the additives of the materials or with other elements. We also took into consideration the decoration of the packaging and the other elements, whether the packaging has a lid or other elements. So I will start with to introduce you to the tool itself. So I will focus on the rigid part, although in Israel we hardly recycle flexible packaging in Israel. If you will press the flexible, it will tell you that we recycle only PE bags that are separated by the blowing them outside, and they should be, of course, monomaterials with no additives. So I will press on the rigid one. The first question is the packaging larger than 40 millimeters in at least one of the dimensions. If you press no, then it will tell you that it can't be recycled. So I will say yes. Then comes the question, is the packaging monomaterial? And saying that each element should be considered separately. If I press no, then it will take you and tell you that it's not recyclable. But if I say yes, then not automatically every material is recycled in Israel, even if it's a monomaterial. For example, polystyrene. Today in mechanical recycling is not possible. So the materials that can be recycled in Israel today is PP, PE, and PET, and also bio-based PE and bio-based PP. So if the packaging is not one of these materials, then it will take you to the end and tell you it's not recyclable. If you press yes, then we have another, because usually there are some additives and fillers to the material. So if you press there are no additives, then it continues, but I will press yes, because there are some materials that can be additives and fillers that can be added to the material. Green is the best. Orange, yellow can be, but not very good. And red, if you press red, it will also take you to the end and tell you that it's not recyclable. These materials are based on protocols that we took from Suez Serpac protocols, and also will be updated periodically. So I'm pressing green. So then I'm asking, are there additional materials for barrier? And also here, if you press no, then you will continue on to the next question. But also we have an option to say yes. And also here we have the green, orange, and red options. We also distinguish between bottles, like for PET bottles. We distinguish first between PET and from PP and PE, and also in the PET, we distinguish between bottles and trays or cups. So also here, based on protocols that are already done, I'm pressing again it green. Then we start to talk about the decoration and color. Is the packaging transparent? If it's transparent, it's the best. You go on yes, but also here we have some options. And also here we distinguish between PET and PP and PE. And of course, it's best for all of us that it will be transparent. The other option is the light colors, and not wanted are the opaque and fluorescent colors. We see in PP and PE, and I heard it talked before, the problem is with the black carbon-based colors that are not, can't be sorted. And we put in the orange, the non-carbon based black that are readable in near infrared. So I go on to the green one. Is the packaging printed? Of course, it's best if it's not printed, but if it's printed, here we recommend that only if it meets the UPIA guidelines. And also here, if it doesn't, then it tells you it's not recyclable. And if it stands for these guidelines, then you can continue. Of course, here we recommend not to use inks and maybe to use other elements, but like laser, but we give the option to use colors with these guidelines. Then we ask if you have additional decoration to beyond printing to the packaging. Of course, if you don't have, you go on, and I'm pressing with the yes. And here we distinguish between sleeves, adhesive labels, and IML. We want, if the best is if the material is the same material like the packaging itself. Then you don't have to have a maximum cover of 50%, because when it's sorted, then you can see that it's the same. It reads that if the label and the cup are PP, then it will throw it for in the sorting part to recycling. But if the material is different than the packaging itself, so we want it to be covered for small packaging up to 50% and big packaging up to 70% to make sure that while sorted, they will recognize the material of the packaging itself. Another issue is that we want it, if it's not the same material, we want the decoration to be separated from the packaging itself, and it should float or sink. So if it's a PET, that the specific gravity is higher than 1, so the sleeve itself or the material or the decoration, whatever it is, should be lower than 1 gram per square meter. On the other hand, PE or PP, it should that the specific gravity of PP and PE are lower than 1, so we want it to be higher than 1 and sink while the PP or PE floats. If it's adhesive, also here we want it to be washed, and so it should be soluble in alkali and in temperatures up to 60 to 80 Celsius for PET, and for PP and PE up to 40 degrees. If it's IML that can't be separated, it should be the same material as the cup. So this is for decoration. Of course, if you meet the requirements, then we go on. If not, then it's not recyclable. Then we ask, do you have other elements, components in the packaging? If you don't have, then you reach the end, it's the best. But if you have, then we would like to make sure that the component, if it's not the same material, could be separate from the main packaging. Of course, if it's the same material, then it's, but if it's not the same material, here we also want to make sure it will be separated, and like the decoration, it should be a different specific gravity, PET less than 1, and for PP and PE should be higher than 1, and also if it's with adhesives, it should be washable, as I mentioned. If it meets these requirements, then you reach the wanted green circle, telling you that your packaging is recyclable. We also give an option for the yellow one, or the orange. If you had more than 1 options of yellow, then you will reach the yellow one. And if you went out of one of the options that were not recyclable, you would end to this one telling you it's not recyclable. Each part you will have an explanation. So this is the end of I went very quickly. So if you have any other questions, you're welcome to reach me. This is my email, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Shira. Just to say that the tool is, of course, also available in Hebrew. It actually was written in Hebrew, and also for the Israelis, you can find everything that Shira showed also in Hebrew. The tool in English, I think, is available on the SwitchMed website, and the Hebrew version, I think, is available on the Industrial Association website, if I'm not mistaken. If you can't find it, either write to Shira or write to us, and we'll send you the link to the tool. Great. So we are on time for the break. Thanks a lot for this presentation, Shira, and you're welcome to join us for the rest of the day. We're going on a break now for 15 minutes, 14 minutes. We'll be back at 11:15 with a presentation from HP Indigo. See you after the break. So just an announcement that we are about to be joined by Danny from HP. Is delayed by a few minutes, and we'll continue as soon as Danny joins us. And I see that Danny is connected. Perfect. Danny, I'm sorry for the misunderstanding, but hi. But
I'm presenting in 25 minutes.
Yes.
In 30 minutes. Hello.
Hello. So I didn't present you yet, but Danny Tulczynski is the EMEA Labels and Packaging Media and Materials Business Manager at HP Indigo here in Israel. And we asked Danny to talk about their solutions in the area of sustainability and circular economy as a digital printer solution provider. Floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Let me share my screen. Just a second. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, still in draft mode. Now in presenter mode.
Can you see the full screen or?
No, it's still in presentation mode. Presenter mode. I think it's in the display. Yeah, exactly.
Good. Hello, everyone, and very nice.
It's still done in presenter mode.
Okay, can you see it?
We can see it in a presenter mode, so we see both. Now it's okay. Perfect.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead.
It takes some time. Just let me hide this one. Okay. Hello, everyone. Very nice to be here. My name is Danny Tulczynski, and I lead the EMEA Labels and Packaging Media and Materials business for HP Indigo, and as well as security and brand protection partnerships. The last years, we've been focusing a lot on the area of sustainability and circular economy. And I'm very thrilled and happy to be with you to present a very interesting success story that we've been accomplished recently with several value chain partners in the area of flexible packaging. And basically, we could demonstrate for the first time how we can take one full recyclable pouch that has been digitally printed on the HP Indigo 25K and go with it all the process to create a new PCR recyclable pouches. Now, I want to show you a little bit about and explain a little bit about this journey, because I think it's also very much connected to the targets of the seminar related to innovation. So what you can see here is a circular economy, how we emphasize this utilizing the HP Indigo digital printing, which we in the first stage we printed surface on a monofilm PE, recyclable high barrier film that has been created by Reifenhauser with Dow resins. And we went through all the way and converted pouches, which we later on recycled by the inking process. I will show you a very explanative video that emphasizing all this story. And those resins that has been the ink and recycled has been used to create a new post-consumer recycling film, PCR film, 40% that has been used again to create the dishwasher pouches. But this time we printed on MDO PE film and laminated it with a solventless adhesive, fast cure solventless adhesive with Dow on their Nord Mechanica laminator, and converted them into pouches with a Cargill pouch machine, which is also all the hardware you see, by the way, here is on the width and specially designed for HP Indigo 25K press. It has 800 millimeter width. The laminators, it can be solventless lamination, it can be thermal lamination, as well as the pouch machine is very compact. You can change over different sizes of pouches very smoothly. So all you see here on the right side, we emphasize as a digital pouch factory. Today we have already dozens of HP Indigo customers owning this 600 square meter area factory that has the Indigo 25K press, a laminator, slitter, and a pouch machine. And it allows you to provide sustainable, on-demand, recyclable pouches. And this is a real breakthrough innovation in this industry. And of course, we are all the time looking what is the next step. So we also I will give you at the end of the presentation a flavor of what is the next step of what we are working today. But beforehand, I want to deep dive and present you this short video of this end-to-end success story. I will need to stop share and share again with the so you can hear the sound. So just a minute. Show YouTube. Okay. I don't know if you can see my screen again.
So far, no.
No, just a second.
Yes,
Okay.
it's starting to share.
Can a pouch be a pouch again? It all started with a challenge. Is it possible to create a closed loop for printed pouches? So we joined forces to demonstrate that appealing recyclable barrier pouches can be recycled into valuable pouches again. Let's start from the beginning. Project partner Reifenhauser produced a polyethylene-based barrier film on the highly flexible EVO 9-layer blown film line, which was able to produce Dow's resins most economically. Dow's innovative resins provide an outstanding stiffness-toughness balance, low temperature sealability, adhesion to extruded barrier layers, and excellent bubble stability. Digital printing has significant advantages when it comes to reducing the environmental impact. These pouches were surface printed on an HP Indigo 25K digital press, which is the only field-proven solution for digital flexible packaging. The co-extruded 9-layer polyethylene films are designed for recyclability, with up to 5% of EVOH in the total structure. But how are these pouches actually recycled? The printed pouches were sent to Cadell Recycling Partner for ink removal by means of de-inking technology. The first step is the grinding process, in which the materials are cut before entering the washing line. The printed plastic fluff then goes into the de-inking reactor, where 90% of the ink is removed using a solvent-free solution. In order to completely remove the ink, the fluff goes into a second stirred reactor. The fluff then goes into the rinsing step, where traces of reagents and inks are removed from the de-inked plastic fluff. Water treatment for de-inking and rinsed loop is carried out to recover reagents and water. As a result, clear fluff came out of the washing line to be converted to pellets in the pelletizer unit. The recyclates went through various quality testing steps at Dow's Pack Studios Tarragona to verify their suitability to be used on the industrial scale blown film line for producing recycled content films. A new 5-layer PE-based blown film was extruded in Pack Studios Tarragona, combining Dow's high-performance resins with 50% of the recycled material from the initial printed barrier pouches. In parallel, Reifenhauser produced a machine direction-oriented PE film on their new state-of-the-art blown film line, combining different Dow resins to achieve outstanding optics, stiffness, and planarity. The MDO PE film was then reverse printed on an HP Indigo 25K digital press and sent to Dow's Pack Studios Mosate for lamination to the film made in Pack Studios Tarragona.
The lamination process starts here, where two components of the solid metal are mixed together. Thanks to an automatic system of gate control, we are able to set the right body weight that we want to apply on the primary beam, here represented by MDOP, digitally printed by HP. Once the adhesive is applied, then the primary beam goes across the machine and is meeting with the secondary beam, here represented by the recycled PE film, and the two beams are laminated together to the digitalization. The reel has been kept in our warehouse, and after 24 hours, we tested the constraints and we checked the aspect. As possible to say, they are both excellent. Now, the reel is ready to be sent to Carly for the pouch production.
And here, everything went really fast. At Carlville, the material has been converted at high speed into pre-made detergent pouches. The shiny pouches for dishwasher tablets have a reclosable zipper and feature excellent stiffness, gloss, and remarkable sealability. The final pouches look excellent and contain about 30% recycled resins. Since we worked with materials new to the team and machines, every partner's whole expertise was needed to enable smooth production. The result is clearly visible. A pouch can be a pouch again, and it is designed for recycling in the polyethylene stream again. This is how we stop the waste and close the loop. Hands-on collaboration was key to prove this closed-loop concept for printed pouches. Will you join us to meet the Green Deal? Contact us to find out.
Okay, so that's really a great success story, emphasizing how value chain partners working together can demonstrate a real innovation, and basically it allowed us to create these shiny pouches currently in Europe for non-food applications with the reused PCR material, and these are 30% PCR content. It means 30% of the pouch is already using materials that has been recycled to be pouches again. And of course, the industry working all the time to improve the numbers of PCR rates. And this is a really great success story. You can see here a clear recipe how you can do it. And of course, we can provide you further information if it's interesting you. Actually, next week, we will have a live webinar together with all the value chain partners, where we will present the entire story. We are showcasing here, and you are welcome to join and register and listen in and see also other partners in the value chain, how they explain the various parts of this project, which is a real pioneering in the industry of flexible packaging. But I want also to give you a flavor of what will be next, because that's great. We accomplished this pouch to pouch, but we also look in the future and the innovation of the future. And the next step of the future will be also to have a digital information of every product, that you will be able to monitor the best way how it can be recycled in a closed loop on a production. So today we are working on a follow-up of this initiative to create a digital product passport that contains all the information of the product, from which materials it was created, what is the recycling stream it should be recycled at, and this is a data that will be conducted. The one that is leading this is our Cycle, and basically in their database they collect all the information from the manufacturer of the raw materials, of the films, inks, and also utilizing information such as digital watermarks. All information collected that is the ID of a certain product is stored, and this information can be sourced and utilized for a lot of knowledge and a lot of usage for the recycling end-to-end, closing the loop. So we already started the process, and it's still ongoing with all the information related to our products that has been created. So basically, looking at this idea of the digital passport, it's a passport. It allows you to comply in the circular economy, but also having a proof of Recyclable, that it's recyclable, and also emphasizing the value of digital supply chain, personalization, and readability of the QR code, and all the information of the digital watermarks with the infrared readers, everything that will make sure that you have you are recycling the right products. So thank you very much, and I'm open to any questions.
Great, Danny. Thanks a lot for joining on this short notice. I wanted to ask if I don't know if you or Karen attended a presentation yesterday where we had a colleague from the UK presenting their alternative to the Holy Grail. So another way of watermarking or labeling a product or packaging. And do you integrate other systems of information on the product into the digital passport that you are preparing?
Yeah, actually, there are several initiatives now in this arena of digital watermarks, and everyone is trying to bring his own idea, and eventually we need some regulation. This is something that we need the RVU and the team to assist us to create some rules how this should work. Yeah. In order to make it work. But definitely what we see, the advantage of HP Indigo and digital printing, it allows you to print on any recyclable media. With minimal waste, minimal transportation cost, because we are now having 260 in Series 4 presses for flexible packaging installed on more than 50 countries worldwide. And we all the time work to improve our sustainability impact. I'm sure you're well aware of Karen's of our consumables in the press and operation, and how we reduce the waste. But it's not only that; it's also the labor costs and transportation and the digital pouch factory, a concept that allows you to create on demand what you need and when you need, with minimal waste, no need of plates or cliches, translation, regulation changes. You can do it very simply with digital printing. This is the future, and we are just starting with, today we are 0.5% of the digital printed flexible with HP Indigo digital printed flexible packaging dollar value of the flexible packaging market. 0.5%, but we are growing 40-50% year over year constantly, and penetrating quite decent in this market as well already.
Got you. Super. Out of time, so thanks a lot for presentation and answering the question. Welcome to join us for the rest of the day, although I know you left a meeting to be with us, so good luck in that meeting. Thanks, Danny. We move now to the topic of agri-plastic waste and what is done across Europe to collect agri-plastic waste. And we are very happy to have with us Xavier Ferry, the assistant of the president to APE Europe, which is the professional association for the agri-plastic sector. Xavier, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for welcome us and let us the opportunity to present what we are doing. I hope it will be useful and interesting. I will share my screen if you agree.
Yes, okay.
Can you see it?
See it in draft mode.
Yes, I tried to put it in diapo. Okay.
Perfect.
Is it good?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. So I will try to be as effective as possible. Let me just check. Okay. So for those who are non-familiar, as mentioned Avi, we are a professional association. We are representing both the marketers and the collection schemes in Europe, covering 80% of the market. And we are dealing with non-packaging plastics with agronomic effect use for the agricultural production. So, and one of the big countries for that is Israel, where was invented, for example, the drip irrigation, which is one of the big applications for plastics, with the films, who are the biggest market, the woven protective nets, and also nets and twines for the fodder. So basically, those plastics are used or to manage with the climate, so allowing to heat to warm the soil, to protect from sunshine, from the wind, from the dust, from the eventually hail. And so making possible to extend the production season to produce in colder conditions, so hotter conditions. So you are very familiar with this in Israel. I think I've no need to explain more. And we are the point here is to explain the consequences, or to give you an input about what is happening in Europe on plastics in general, and in your case, plastics in agriculture, to give you an insight of what will happen in the other countries, because the experience we have is that was what starts in the north of Europe, then extend to all Europe, and then extend outside. So we are in a context, with the Green Deal, the European Commission Plastic Strategy, the Single-Use Plastic Directive, the Green Deal, the Farm to Fork Strategy, the Circular Plastic Alliance. And as the plastic culture, the industry of plastics used in agriculture, we try to be proactive in the defense and the promotion of our products, considering the specificity of our sector. We really try to be focus on the ground, offering solutions for the specificity of our customers, the farmers, and the specificity of our product. And I think there are two important things to distinguish, to take in account in our case. This is the identification of the specificity of the agri-plastics. So they are very bulk. For example, when you use plastics for agriculture, for example, when we are talking about mulching, it's about 250 kilos per hectare. When we are dealing with fodder films, this is 1 kilo per bale, for example. when we are speaking about drip irrigation, we are speaking more or less with 10,000 meters per hectare, even in some cases 3,000 meters. And this supposes a dedicated approach, because once used, the agri-plastics are heavily soiled with water, sand, dust, organic matter. They are very bulky due to the quantities used by each farm, and they have specific problems for their recycling, especially concerning the fact that most of the time they have a negative value. You have to clean it much more than the household, and even more than the commercial packaging. But they represent also an interest for the recyclers. They are thicker than other films or plastics, and they are with very less additives. We are not on technical films that you can have for packaging, for example. We are really on a simple design. So, and we try that this is taken in account. So, as you can see on the graph, we have a very strong movement from 2012 about plastics. Also, that we and plastics in agriculture try to be very proactive and to go, if possible, quicker and more in depth than the requirement of the law, in order to be really responsible and to answer to the expectations of the farmers. So Happy Europe was created in 2012 when there was the starting about the question of plastic littering, and the collections of used plastics in agriculture is from 2000. So really, we have now more than 20 years of experience in the collections of films. And at each step, there was new schemes with the appearance of new legislation. So we are now with the Green Deal, with an anomia report on the plastics in agriculture, and we try to expand collection schemes in order to be ready for what is coming for, which is the Green Deal. So in 2050, we are supposed to be carbon neutral. So they didn't ask our opinion. So that's, but we take it as a fact. And so we try to, fulfill this expectation for the converters and for the farmers, who are the users and who need absolutely to be able to use plastics, because without those solutions, well, in some cases, production is impossible. And roughly, we estimate that 60% of all agricultural production in Europe is depending from agri-plastics for fodder or for vegetable production. And this leads to a need to offer to the farmers a toolbox for these questions that we are seeing. So we cannot, we have to take in account that the framework we are working in is changing, not only for us. This is the same question for pesticides and fertilizers. This is the same question for machinery. And it's very necessary to offer to the farmers a toolbox to be able to be carbon neutral and to fulfill with the expectations of European legislation. And this is why we try to have a very axis with three, let's say, three dimensions. The first one is the coherence of the message. So it's very important to explain what what you are doing, because if not, the people think that you have something to hide, which is not the case. It's very important to explain what we are doing, why we are using plastic, how we are using plastics. More important even is to treat the questions, the problems. So this is the goal of the national collection schemes. We will speak after. So to explain what you are doing, suppose that you are doing something. So, and then this action should be current at global level, because Europe is, at least for agriculture, is a single market, even if there are a lot of differences due to the climate, the geography, but the products are more or less the same, the actors are the same, the techniques are the same. So we need to have a global view, a global conception, which is harmonized through Europe, but to act local, really to fit the needs of each country. The needs are the same, but the way to fulfill them is not the same. And it's very important to have this articulation between local and Europe. And it's very important because, well, there is a lot of things happening today. This is just for agri-plastics. Imagine what is for the other plastics. So we really have a strong involvement of the European Commission through the DG Environment, DG Grow, which is on for the companies, and DG Agri for the agriculture. And so, and we find here the same 3 points. So the development of national collection schemes grounded in the extended producer responsibility, which is the European framework for the management of waste. The changes in legislation that we have seen before. We have the question of ensure that agri-plastics are considered as non-packaging. The question of contamination and solage. As you know, the Basel Convention has been updated 2 years ago, and we are now in the operational phase. And for the transfer of agri-plastics, the question of solage is very important, because we have, as we mentioned, heavily soiled plastics with dirt that can be at risk with such legislation. We have the question of biodegradable products that can be part of the solution in some cases, especially for the mulch. We have the question of the standards to integrate in the standards for the product, the end of life, to have an harmonized end of life sets of standards to be able to increase and ease the circularity of plastics. We need to increase the recycling capacities in Europe. So this is a question. To have recycling, we need to have a post-consumer integration. So post-consumer recycled integration. If not, so recycling supposed to sell the recycled to someone. This is why it's connected with the eco-modulation of the eco-contributions on the used plastics. So how can we incentivize the converters to use recyclates? The monitoring to ensure that the collection and recycling level and so on. And you can see at all the aspects that are with this dimensions of explain what we're doing and doing in an harmonized way. And this is, you see, we have emerging topics. So what we are dealing with is only part of the global picture. So, for example, the question of microplastics is now very, I said that hot. It's emerging. So this is a question we have identified, for example, in our case, 10 years ago. And we are supporting and collaborating with research program in order to to ensure that there is no problem with that. The question of pesticides contamination, especially in the greenhouses, the dissemination of the good practices of the NCS principles, the recycling, and so on. So really a lot of things to do yet. And the good thing that we have at App Europe, and really it's helped us a lot, is that we are representing both the converters, 80% of the market, and the collection schemes that are working both converters and schemes in the interest of the farmers. So, and this allows us to be very well grounded in operational level. We connected with the collection schemes, we are well aware about the questions of soilage, the question of recyclability, the question of waste transfer, the question of sharing recycling facilities among member states in Europe. And when we are implementing something, well, it's immediately operational. So we are also a place for the collection schemes to collaborate, for example, in R&D project or in sharing in recycling capacities. And this makes very different from other organizations. And to fulfill the objective that we have seen, well, App Europe has developed a three-axis strategy. The first and the most important is the development of national collection schemes in Europe. So our goal is 100% collected, 100% recycled. Today, we estimate that 60% of the volume put on the market in Europe is covered by an existing collection schemes, and 80% is well mastered. So where we know what the waste is going. The second point is really the monitoring to know exactly what is collected, what is recycled, what is the fate of the recyclates we generate. So to be able to have an integrated management of agri-plastic, which is for us the way to answer those questions. And then the lobbying, even if the term is not very appropriate, which has two dimensions. The first is obviously to represent agri-plastics in every place with the legislator, with the international level. But the other one, which is very important, is the standardization. We have set a strong consensus between all the actors that we need to have common standards on the plastics from its conception to its end of life, and then connected to the standards on recycled plastics, so that we can really have a very, very good life cycle of the agri-plastics with the highest recycling rate possible. And thanks to this strategy, and even if we have a very limited resource, yeah.
I just want to mention we have 1 minute left.
Very good. So I'm quite finished. So as you can see, we can contribute to a lot of things because we are in the center of the Plastic Culture Forum. We are the cross point, the checkpoint between collection scheme, public authorities, professional organization companies, and R&D project. So I think this is what makes us efficient. So you can see here all the indices in Europe. And we do that with documents, which is the Plastic Culture Strategy, which explain how we do that. So you can ask for a copy, which was endorsed by farmers, the professional association, and so on. We are committed to fulfill that. And we have a tool, which is Plastic Culture Magazine, a dissemination tool to explain that in various editions. So, and if we have to resume what we're doing, it will be the infinite loop. So we really try to do that, to from the granule to the granule, even if we are not in closed loop necessarily. It can happen, but it's not it's not a goal in se. But we really try that the plastic we use go back to the use in new product. Okay. Thank you so much. I don't know if you have any questions or remark or things you want to know. Avi, you are muted.
Thanks for mentioning that. We do have questions, but I'm afraid we ran out of time. We're actually a minute late. So, but we do have an intention to run a project on circular agri-plastic in Israel. So we will be sure to be in touch with you through.
We are available. And there is an international association called SIPA, which is really the tool for that, which is for at world level. So we very happy to help.
Thanks a lot, Xavier.
Thank you
for the presentation and the time. We move on to another European organization, and that's SEN. And we have with us Christine Gedemark Olofsson and Alessia Gaetani. They are from the Technical Committee 249 on plastics, and we asked them to share with us some information on standardization of recycled plastics that's been taking place in their committee. Christina and Alessia, floor is yours. Thanks for joining.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Avi, and thank you, Afeka, for the invitation. So indeed, this presentation will be done both by me and Christine. I am indeed a project manager at Senelec, so I will give you an overview of who we are and what we do, and then Christine will go more into details of the standards on plastics and of the activities we are carrying out. So just to introduce briefly Christine, she's Director Regulatory Affairs and Strategic Innovation at Trio World. And of course, she's also highly involved in standardization, as she's the convener of the recycling working group in TC249 plastics. So let's get started. If Christine, you can go to the first slide. And yeah, the one. Yes, so SEN and Senelec, along with DETSI, are the European standardization organizations. And SEN and Senelec are membership-based organizations. So you can see here on the left our national standardization bodies, which are 34 from all over Europe. And the European standardization system is indeed based on the national delegation principle. So the European standards are produced thanks to the contribution of our national standardization bodies that participate in the technical committees representing their national positions. And we have also some companion standardization bodies, for instance, that are not active directly in the technical committees. And among those, for instance, there is also the Israeli Standardization Organization. And of course, standardization happens also at international level. I'm sure you are all familiar with ISO and IEC. And specifically with ISO, we have a specific agreement, which is called Vienna Agreement, that facilitates the adoption of international standards. So whenever we can, we go for the global solution rather than the European one. Next slide. So in a nutshell, what do we do and what do we deliver at Senelec? So we develop, and these specific technical committees develop technical documents that are designed to be used as a rule, guideline, or definition. And they are intended for repeated use. So to harmonize and standardize a certain final outcome that can be a product, a process, a system, and so on. Very importantly, these documents are produced by all the interested parties, so not only the national standardization bodies, but also societal, consumer, environmental organizations. And this is done in a transparent, open, and consensus-based process. Very importantly, I want to remind that standards are voluntary in use. So a company, for instance, that decides to use a standard does so on a voluntary basis because they want to streamline and harmonize their processes and be more competitive on the market. Last point here that you see is that standards are actually possible tools to underpin legislation. And what I mean by saying so, and we will go we will see that also later, is that whenever there is a regulation or directive at the European level, it can happen that the Commission asks us to develop certain standards to support that legislation. Next slide, please. And yeah, here I try to summarize a bit the strength of the European standardization system, because whenever a European standard is developed, there is an identical adoption at national level. So one single document replaces 34 national standards. And I think this is really the strength of the system. And at the same time, there is also let's say withdrawn conflicting standards are withdrawn at national level, so that really there is only one standard for a certain topic available in Europe. And you might know, I think you know, that standards are purchasable, so they are not freely available, and they are purchasable at the NSBs, so the national standardization bodies. And my last slide, and then I will leave you to the fun part of Christine, is the next one, and is about what I was saying before, about the relationship between legislation and standards. So the initial step is generally a regulation or a directive that are regulating a certain product on the market, but there can also be a certain policy or strategy. In this specific case, I'm thinking at the plastic strategy, at the Green Deal, all things that also Xavier mentioned before me. So in this context, the European Commission identifies the standard as a key tool for enabling, or let's say for harmonizing a certain product and for strengthening the single market. And so CEN and CENELEC are requested to develop certain standards, and this all happens through a so-called standardization request, which is what is exactly happening at the moment with the Circular Plastic Alliance, and Christine will tell you about it. So I was very short, and I will leave the floor to Christine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Alessia. Thank you for inviting us to this meeting. Just to stay here a little while, this is the normal way of using a standardization request to enforce a regulation, but we will come to how the standardization request regarding plastics recycling, it's a little bit later on in this presentation, but just to mention, it's not necessarily used for to be implemented in a regulation. It can be used just to get development of standards done in an organized way. So keep that in mind, please, and I will go on from here. So I will talk about plastics and plastics recycling in CEN/CENELEC. we have in the work originated very much from Circular Plastic Alliance that I will come to in a minute, recognize that development of standards when it comes to plastics recycling is not linear. It's not the linear economy, sorry. It's horizontal. And we try to cover all the affected groups that we have in Sensenelec to be able to ensure a full engagement in all the different sectors that have anything to do with circular plastics. So this is some examples mentioned here where we have a collaboration originated from Circular Plastic Alliance in order to enable a development of plastic recycling standards. So just some example: EEE electronic equipment, plastic piping, environments, vehicles, irrigation techniques, packaging, doors, windows, and shutters, and so on. And this is only some examples. There are a lot more in SEN. And the most important one, of course, I think so, because I'm the chair of Workgroup 11 in SEN TC249 Plastics. Here is the center of the wheel, so to say, where we try to keep track on all the development happening regarding plastics within SEN, and in some cases also internationally. So just to mention some examples, because there are a lot of activities going on in my working group, Workgroup 11. And these are 3 examples on published work or under revision standards. We have a long list. So the first one is EN 17410 for building and construction, control loop recycling for Pvcu profiles from windows and doors. And this is really interesting to read this standard, because it's covering all the different steps in the value chain and how to manage them in order to have a controlled loop. It's just published. We are very proud of this. It has taken a long time to develop it, but it's extremely good. Then we have 2 standards that in a series of standards, the 1534X series, we call it, regarding plastics recycling. So the first one is 15347, characterization of sorted plastic waste, which is under revision. This is seen as very essential in order to get a good quality of recyclate. And the next one is 15348, characterization of polyethylene terephthalate, PET recyclates. And what we have realized is that we need to cover all the different steps in the value chain in order to achieve a true circularity of plastics. And then we come into Circular Plastic Alliance and the connection between CPA, which I will call it from now on, and standardization. So Circular Plastic Alliance is an initiative initiated by the European Commission in line with the plastic strategy. The Alliance shall ensure that 10 million tons of recycled plastics are used in products on the market in 2025. It's a voluntary commitment covering all the whole value chain, and also other relevant stakeholders, NGOs, member states, and academia, for example. Today we are on 293 signatories. We are very proud of that. And parts of the declaration, which is quite detailed, is a commitment to develop standards within identified areas. So, and last but not least, Sensenelec is a signatory of the CPA declaration. So it's one of the 293. The scope for the coming standardization request is based on the different thematic groups that we have worked with. And these are R&D and investments, what is needed to invest in to achieve the 10 million tons. Design for recycling, because you have to have good products in for recycling in order to get the value of the recyclate going through the whole value chain. We have recycled content, how do we implement the recycled material, and we have the collection and sorting. The structure of the Circular Plastic Alliance is divided in 5 different sectors plus 1 working group called monitoring, which is the one down to the left. The monitoring group have developed a reporting platform where the different steps in the process will be reported from the stakeholders that is relevant for the different steps. So collection, recycling, converting, and products on the market. And there have been a lot of work on definitions there. Then we have the 5 sectors. We have packaging, agriculture. Xavier had just mentioned a lot of the work that we are doing. Automotive, building and construction, and EEE. And you see the connection to the right with the picture I showed previously with the different technical committees within Sensenelec. And the outcome of the coming standardization request is a number of European standards that Circular Plastic Alliance working groups have provided the background work and the identification of needed standards in each sector to the standardization request ad hoc group, which is the bridge between Circular Plastic Alliance and Sensenelec. So here we have the scope.
Christine, sorry to intervene, since we ran out of time, maybe we have 1 minute left. Can you narrow?
I have 2 slides left, and that will
perfect.
Be, yeah, okay, thank you. The scope for the standardization request is design for recycling, quality of waste, quality of recyclates, and integration of recycled material. And all the working groups in CPA have been working with identifying the need here. And that is done through design for recycling groups, which is a voluntary commitment of the signatories in CPA. So in each and every sector, there have been voluntary experts providing their expertise in order to map the needed standardization. And not to go into detail in the product teams, these are the routes that have been identified as the biggest potential to provide material for recycling and possibly uptake of recycled material. And that identification had been done by JRC, Joint Research Center within the European Commission. So these are the different product routes that we have been working on, especially regarding design for recycling, where we are now in this step that we are waiting for the standardization request to be transferred from the Commission to Sensenelec for informal consultation. And just to have a view on the time frame here, we have 2025 when the deliverable of the CPA is supposed to take place. We have the very actual Packaging and Packaging Waste Directive that is under revision that needs to be communicated very soon in order to be enforced in 2024, where the packaging industry will face a recyclable requirement in the directive and also mandatory recycled content for non-regulated packaging. And last but not least, we have the standardization request, where new standards that have been identified by CPA and the Commission in cooperation have a delivery time of 36 months, and revised standards have a delivery time of 24 months, but we need to be able to deliver until 2025 because it's part of the CPA. And this was everything from us. Very short, very brief, but if you want more information, you can contact either Alessia or me. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine and Alessia. Thanks for sharing your emails with anybody if they have questions. And for the time, we ran out of time, so we can't allow questions, unfortunately. But anybody that has any is welcome to reach out either to us or to you with a specific question. We do have an effort on trying to think what should be our priorities on standardization also in Israel. So we will definitely need your help in guidance. Thanks, Christine, Alicia, and we move ahead to Alice Wallon. She's the technical advisor of Plastics Recyclers Europe, which is the industry body of European recyclers. And we asked Alice to share with us their methodology or the recommendations for certification of recyclability. Alice, hello.
Hello, Evie, thank you very much. And hello everyone, thank you for inviting me to the event. So I'm Alice Wallon, working as technical advisor at Plastic Recycler Europe and fully dedicated to Recyclable. And I would like to start with giving you a little bit of information, of background information on Recyclable. So Recyclable is a technical, sorry for that. So Reseclable is a technical initiative working under the umbrella of Plastic Recycler Europe and was kicked off by recyclers some years ago. First to start on working on recyclability and packaging, but now the scope of the Recyclable was extended also to recycled content and any plastic products, as we are as the objective of Recyclable is really to achieve circularity for plastic products. So it's really important to have these two approaches, recyclability and recycled content. And therefore, to summarize the activities of Recyclable, as you can see on the slide, we have these two main pillars, recyclability, recycled content, with a set of guidance that we offer to the plastic industry. And for recyclability, that will be our main focus today. We have the testing protocols, the design for recycling guidelines, a methodology to assess plastic packaging recyclability, the online tool, and the recyclability certifications. So this I will explain you later on, but also on recycled content, we developed a calculation to evaluate the recycled plastic use in any product, plastic product, and the associated recycled plastic traceability certification. So this is really to close the loop. And to go along with the certifications that we have, we developed as well logos and use of claim guidance document to create a level playing field on claims in Europe, and to give right recommendation to the certified company on how to claim both recyclability and recycled content, which we believe it's really key, especially for the consumer, for the B2C communication. And that said, to continue on the Recyclable introduction, we strongly believe that recycling is only possible if the entire plastic value chain is involved in this discussion, so to have all the stakeholders around the table. And this is the reason why in Recyclable we have from the raw material producer to the recyclers, because we need to find a consensus and common solution to develop and to improve the circularity of the plastic product. And as you can see on these slides, all the members and the supporters of Recyclable that are involved in developing all the documents I showed you, I talked to you about before, so the protocols, the guidelines, and so on. So the raw material producer, the brands, the converters. And also, in order to have everyone involved, we also are open to supporters, because they have some expertise to bring also to the technical discussion. And first of all, before going into the Recyclable methodology itself, I would like to start by two definitions that are the main rationale behind all the documents that we are developing. And first of all is the circularity definition. It's the word I already used several times in my presentation, but it's really understand what we mean behind that. And circularity for us is a closed loop application or open cascade loop application, meaning film to films or bottle to bottles. And in any case, the preferred scenario is packaging to packaging applications. And on that, we endorsed the Ellen MacArthur Foundation on the circularity. And the second definition is the recyclability, which is, of course, one of the key points in Recyclas. And this is exactly the same definition as you have seen on Monday during the presentation of Suez-Sirpac by Vincent Moij. So there is 4 requirements to claim a product recyclable. So first, the product must be collected. It must be sorted into a mono material stream. The packaging must be reprocessed, recycled with the most commonly used infrastructure that we have today in Europe. And the last but not least, of course, the recycled plastic must be reused in new products. So the quality of the recyclate must be high enough to be reusable in high value applications. If one of these points is missing, you cannot claim the recyclability of the packaging. And based on that, we developed all our guidance in Recyclas, and we have 3 different levels in Recyclas. The first level is the recyclability evaluation protocols, because without protocols, you cannot develop a reliable guidelines for the design guidelines. So this is the key point that we have in Recyclas, and this is under the responsibility of all our members to develop and maintain these recyclability evaluation protocols, 1 per type of packaging. And the goal of this protocol is to compare the behavior of one innovative packaging versus a control material and to compare the properties. And then based on this lab result, these findings, we developed the design for recycling guidelines that are also available online publicly, that you can find on the website. And in there, we really want to have this fact-based approach to recommend how to design plastic packaging. And with this guideline, you can, of course, assess the overall recyclability of a packaging. So the main body, any attachment, decoration, all these kind of features. And to make it more user-friendly, we developed a free online tool to allow you to self-assess the recyclability of your packaging based on these guidelines. So you need to answer a series of questions, and then you will have results and also recommendation on how to improve the packaging design. But of course, the self-assessment is not enough to claim the recyclability of your packaging. So the last step is the recyclability certification delivered by recognized certification bodies. And in this case, you will be able to use the Recyclas logo to claim the recyclability of your packaging and so on. So this is really the different steps on how to evaluate and then claim the recyclability of your packaging with Recyclas. This is, let's say, the methodology that we are using for recyclability. And if I go into the detail, more specifically for the testing protocols, so we have first of all, the recyclability evaluation protocol, so the full complete one that aims to reproduce at lab scale what will happen in the industrial recycling lines. We have 1 protocol per type of packaging, flexible, rigid, and per type of polymer. For the protocol on PET bottles and tray, we are working in collaboration with EPBP, Petcore Europe, and EPTB. And for the PS protocol, this is under development by the technical committee for polystyrene in Recyclas, but will be also published soon. Then, of course, apart from the recyclability, the sorting behavior is key, because without the sortability, without the correct sortability of the packaging, never it can be recycled. So we developed the sorting protocol for plastic packaging that was published last week on the Recyclas website. And this sorting protocol should be performed at industrial scale, so in real sorting lines, and can be used for any type of plastic packaging. This really aims to have a standardized approach in terms of evaluating the sortability of the sortability behavior of packaging in Europe. And the last one, the last type of testing protocol that we are developing are the quick test procedures. And here the idea is to give the possibility to the plastic industry to test specific features of the packaging, and to then in the development phase really test if the new solution they are developing will be compatible with recycling. And specifically the one that we already published are for the washability of the film labels and paper labels, to see if indeed the adhesive will get removed during the washing step during the recycling process. And we are working on additional quick test procedures such as the bleeding inks quick test procedure to assess that the inks used to decorate the packaging will not bleed during the recycling process. This is important because this is typically features that you can find on the Recyclable guidelines, but without protocol, it's hard to assess that it will comply with the guidelines. So this is the purpose of these quick test procedures that also can be used by the auditors during the audit to assess that the packaging complies indeed with the design for recycling guidelines. And as you can see here on the graph that illustrates all the steps that the Recyclable protocol cover. So from the compaction with the sorting protocol to the NIR detection, because it's really important to understand that the NIR detection alone is not enough to assess the sorting behavior of the packaging. There might be several issues before the NIR detection. So we need to cover all the steps. And then the recycling process that is covered by the recyclability evaluation protocol. And additionally, also to that, on the plastic granulates, we have also converting step to assess that the recyclate can be indeed reused in bottle application, in films application, and others. So basically with Recyclable, you can assess everything you can see on the screen in terms of waste management steps. And then, as I said, and this is really important, all this testing are generating data that are then evaluated by the Recyclable members to update any guidance and specifically the design for recycling guidelines. So these guidelines are living documents and are updated time to time, 2 to 3 times per year. Because of course we don't have all the knowledge today, and we need to make tests in order to complete this guidance and to cover most of the packaging features. So it is really important to understand that any innovative packaging should be tested, and any company can contact Recyclable to make tests and to generate data on that. And then of course the guidelines will be updated accordingly. In terms of guidelines, we have 8 types of guidelines that correspond to the different types of plastic packaging and polymers. We covered the PET bottles, trays, but then also the polyolefin rigid, polyolefin flexible, the PS containers, and also crates and pallets. For the polyolefin, for the guidelines, we also have, of course, declination between colored and natural stream. And in total, it's 14 guidelines that you can find on the Recyclable website. And the principle, it's quite easy. There is 3 levels of compatibility. The yes, full compatibility is the preferred design, the best in class that you can do when designing your plastic packaging. Then you have the limited compatibility, which is a second choice, still compatible with recycling, but with some conditions on how to use it. And then, of course, the red column, no compatibility. And in this case, you should not have any features reported in red in your packaging. And then to make this guideline more user-friendly, and also as presented before with the new tool for Israel, the idea is also exactly the same on the Recyclable online tool for Europe. So the idea is really to rank the recyclability of your plastic packaging, and the system behind is considering the Recyclable methodology, and we will evaluate according to the type of packaging. You have a series of questions to understand the different features that you have in your packaging, the critical points that may jeopardize the recyclability of the packaging will be highlighted. And also one of the key features that we added recently is a European mapping of the different waste management systems that exist, meaning if the collection is available, the sorting and the recycling infrastructure as well, per type of packaging. So you have this map to really understand where you will be able to claim the recyclability of your packaging. And of course, how to use it, it's really easy. You just need to go on the Recyclas website. The online tool is for free, and then you will make the analysis and receive the report directly. So feel free to use the tool to understand how it works. And as technical support, the Reseclas team is always here to answer your questions. So feel free to reach me or my colleagues to have some support on the use of the online tool. And then let's go into the detail with the Reseclas methodology itself. And first of all, it's really important to understand that recyclability is not black or white. So we have these recyclability classes from A to F. A, B, and C means recyclable for Reseclas, and recyclable means that the quality of the recyclate is high enough to be reused in high-value applications, so packaging to packaging. So even if with class C, it's already a really good result. And we have 5 main steps. First, of course, to check that there is an existing recycling stream in Europe and that the packaging can be sorted. Then the second is the recyclable plastic content, to really have the highest amount of recyclable plastic in the packaging. Then we will check the design incompatibilities that are exactly linked to the design for recycling guidelines. Then the easy to empty, easy to access index. In this case, we will check the residual content in the packaging after the use phase by the consumer. And then, of course, the last, to check that the packaging will comply with REACH. It's an important point for the recyclers, of course. And then going step by step, to give you an overview, the sortability is linked, of course, to the sorting protocol. You can see on the right the methodology diagram. You can see all the steps that it covers. And the idea is really to have this standardized approach at industrial scale for all Europe, and to make it mandatory for specific packaging design, because in case of some features that are well known, we observed that the sortability of the packaging can be jeopardized. For example, if we talk about carbon black color to decorate the packaging, in this case, there is good chances that the NIR detection will not work. So there is some packaging design that we listed that required a sorting test if they want to be assessed as recyclable. And this sorting protocol also includes the sample preparation procedure, so the compaction, contamination, and so on, to really simulate what will happen in a reality. And this includes as well the result interpretation, then how to understand the impact on the certification scheme based on the sorting efficiency I will obtain with this testing. The second is the packaging composition. And here, as I told you, it's linked to the recyclable plastic proportion in your packaging, because the first in design for recycling is always to design mono material packaging. And it's the first design for recycling requirement if we want to increase the recycling rates. So the higher the content of the main polymer is, the higher the recyclability rate will be. So if you have more than 95% PE, for example, you will start with class A, sorry, which is the best in class. But if you have a lower amount of PE, then you will start with a lower class already. So with a class B, class C, even if before applying any design for recycling compatibilities, this will be like the maximal classes with the one you can start. And then, of course, based on this first prerequisite, we will move to the design for recycling incompatibilities with the guidelines. And then in this case, we will apply further penalty if your packaging is designed with orange or red features. And basically, if you have a features in orange, you will lose 1 class. If you have a feature in red, you will lose 3 classes. Or even you will be disqualified because some of the features reported in red are basically disqualifying your packaging. We are talking about PVDC, additives that increase the density higher than 1 for polyolefin, all this kind of thing that will jeopardize the recyclability of the packaging and will make it unrecyclable at all. So this is how we are evaluating the recyclability with these 2 steps level. And then the other penalty that you can receive as well, and that you need to work on when designing your packaging, is the easy to empty, easy to access index. In this case, what we are looking for is really design that are easily, that the consumer can easily empty, and to really have the lowest residual content as possible in the packaging, because of course, if there is a lot of residual content in the packaging, it will mean an extra effort for the recycler to clean the packaging, and extra water treatment then for them to clean the water. So we really want also to kind of promote the design that allows the consumer to empty and to access entirely the product. And if not, of course, there will be some penalization in the Recyclable methodology. And this is mainly for viscous liquids such as cream, gel, and so on. In this case, it's mandatory to calculate and to make some trials on this index. And this is also something you can self-assess on the Recyclable online tool. The tool is covering all these steps. And then, of course, with this methodology, we have the Recyclability certification that is based on that. And we have 2 levels of assessment. The first is the design for recycling assessment. And maybe also one key point on that, the Recyclability certification is for final packaging only, because any feature that you can add on the packaging can change the recyclability behavior. So it's important to understand that only final packaging as pledged on the market are eligible for the recyclability certification. So we have the design for recycling assessment first, that is valid for all Europe. This is a qualitative one, really similar to the Recyclable online tool with the class ranking from A to F. And it's based on the European sorting and recycling infrastructures, the most commonly used today. And it's really linked to the technical feasibility of the packaging to be sorted and recycled. And then, of course, if you want to go one step further with claiming the recyclability on pack, to use the logo and so on, you need to check country specific, what is the waste management system in place, and if the packaging can be effectively sorted and recycled. So in this case, we have the recyclability rate assessment, which is a quantitative one, and this one is country specific. So the auditor will check in your countries of interest where the packaging is effectively collected, sorted, and recycled. And then, of course, apart from this country-specific check, the sortability and the recyclability behavior compatibility will be assessed exactly like for the design for recycling assessment. Let's say that the recyclability rate is more complete with one additional check on the country specificities. And the formula behind the recyclability rate assessment is also available on all the methodologies available publicly on the Recyclable website. What has been developed following the 4 points of the recyclability definition, actually. So the collection, sortability, recyclability, and then the end market, so the possibility to replace virgin plastic in new products. So you will have these 4 parts, and then you will start with 100%, and then going through the different series of questions, your packaging will probably lose some point, and then at the end you will have your final recyclability rate. This both certifications can be delivered by recognized certification bodies that decided to harmonize with Recyclable the design for recycling guidelines, but also the recyclability methodology, because I did not insist on this point, but one of the key aspects of Recyclable is the harmonization through Europe. So it's really important to have one common methodology to assess recyclability, and therefore to have reliable certificates and claim around recyclability. And so far we are working with 11 certification bodies that are covering good part of European countries, but we are looking to extend to cover all the European countries. You can find the detailed list and contact online as well. And so they are accredited by Recyclable to deliver you this certificate that you can find on the right. And with this certificate, then you will be able to use the Recyclable logo and to claim the packaging recyclable. And my last slide for today is really the result and the benefits of the Recyclability certification delivered by Recyclas. The first, the design for recycling assessment, apart that the fact that you will have your class ranking from A to F, this document is really important for the packaging that today are not widely collected, sorted, and recycled. For example, if we talk about PP films, PET trays, and this is a document that proves that as brands, as plastic industry, you have done your part of the job, and the packaging is well designed to be recycled. With this assessment, you can still claim the recyclability for B2C communication, but you cannot use the logo on pack. You can only make like external communication, such as videos, website, and so on, because in there you have the place to explain what does it mean designed for recycling. And also it's a useful document for the EPR schemes, for example, to explain that the packaging is recyclable, but today there is something missing in the waste management system that prevent the recyclability of your packaging. And then, of course, the last one, the recyclability rate assessment, you have this quantitative certification, and in there you will be able to use the Recyclas logo on pack for all the countries where you have been certified. So the Recyclas logos that we developed with different variations for your packaging, and you will have a service of claim that is allowed. Everything in terms of communication is defined with in the use of claims guidance document and the logo use guidelines that you will also receive from the auditors once certified. And one last point that is not covered here, but also to highlight this point, because as the recyclability certification is for final packaging only, this is mainly for brands and retailers that are effectively pledging final packaging into the market. But for the converters and any other actors in the value chain, what we developed is a letter of compatibility as well that allows the assessment of semi-finished packaging in this case, and that this will be a B2B communication. So to demonstrate from the converters to the brands, for example, that the technology and the packaging developed by the converters is recyclable at this stage. We are talking here about an intermediate result, but then it's up to the brands or the next actor in the value chain to continue the good job that the converters was doing in terms of decoration, adding the cap, or any missing features in the packaging. So the certification bodies in Recyclas can also deliver this letter of compatibility. And the letter of compatibility follows exactly the same methodology, the same steps as the Recyclability certification and the Recyclas online tool. So the first step basically to understand the Recyclas methodology is to go on the Recyclas online tool and to test, to run some simulation on packaging. And then, of course, you will have a deepest explanation in the Recyclas methodology document itself. But I would suggest you to go first on the online tool to see how easily you can self-assess the recyclability of your packaging. And that will be it for my side on my side today. I really invite you to contact us if you have any follow-up question. You have the info box address on the slide now, but also on the first slide you had my email addresses. So feel free to contact us, and we will be pleased to answer any follow-up question on the Recyclas methodology and any other activities that we are working with. We're working on in Recyclas.
Perfect. Alice, thank you so much for this expansive presentation and detailed presentation and doing it on time. It seems that it would be very valuable for Israel and for Israeli packaging manufacturers to have a certification body in Israel that works that use Recyclas. What are the requirements for a certification body to be able to certify for Recyclas?
So we have a document listing all the certification bodies and auditor requirements. So I can circulate this document with you. But of course, the main requirements for certifying the recyclability of the packaging is to have a technical knowledge of the plastic packaging construction, knowledge in the plastic field, in the recycling processes. So all this kind of above average knowledge in all this field. So if needed, we can have a side discussion on that, but I can circulate this document on the requirements for auditors.
Super perfect. Did you, did any chance had any requests from Israel? Just to know, curiosity?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. We'll be sure to spread the word and encourage people to submit. Thanks, Elise. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.
And thanks. And we move ahead. We have 2 more lectures today. We have a longer day today, which we will end at 1:20. And our next presenter is Dustin Bowers. He's the founder of Plyx, which is a visionary company from Canada on a mission to convert plastic waste into building material. Dustin, hi, thanks for joining. It's 6:40 a.m. in New Brunswick right now, right?
Yes, it is. It's an early morning, but I was up much earlier actually because we're also an accelerator in Finland. That's I was up at 4 morning.
You're a bit broken, but I think I heard that you're up from 4 a.m.
Yeah, we are doing an accelerator in Finland.
Okay, got it. There seems to be some problem with it. Some problem with the bandwidth. Yes, I see that you cut the camera. Let's try it like that.
Sometimes it's a little bit. I just try to adjust it.
Okay.
We're a little better now.
Seems better. Yes. Floor is yours.
Hopefully this works.
We see that you start sharing, but your audio is still broken. Yeah, let's give it another few seconds because the bandwidth is really bad. If you have another Wi-Fi, another way to connect. Yeah, so it seems that we lost you. I see, let's try to switch order. I see that Hendrik Peel from Steinart is on the line. Hendrik, are you spontaneous to try to advance your presentation?
Yes, for sure. Hello, I'm Hendrik Peel from Steinart. A little bit short notice that I was able to do this, so hopefully we can make it from here. But yes, I'm ready. I have my presentation, so I can start.
Excellent, thanks. So you're the managing director at Steinart, and Steinart is a resource sorting equipment manufacturers from Germany. Thanks for the spontaneity from yesterday to today and for agreeing to do that with 10-minute notice. Floor is yours.
Yeah, now I try to start it, share it. Wait a second, that's sometimes a little bit difficult. What do you see? Yes. Do you see the breath? You see not the real presentation.
We see the draft mode.
Okay, I try to change it. Now better?
Yes, now it's perfect.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for this possibility to present Steinart here in this audience. So Steinart is a global supplier of sorting equipment. We work in 3 different areas, in business areas. So we have the mining industry, we have the scrap industry, and also the waste industry. You see this map, so we're located globally, but the headquarters from Steinart is in Germany, Cologne, and Steinart Unisort, which I'm represented for, is in Zittau, which is at the Czech-Polish border at the edge of Germany. We at Steinart Unisort are responsible for the development and for the production of all products under the brand name Unisort, which are mainly near-infrared sorters. So the magnets and the eddy currents, the other stuff from Steinart is produced in Cologne. and also the sensor sorters from Steinert. The company in Zittau, we have 50 people, we turn over 20 million a year, and the core product is a Unisort near-infrared product. So that's just a short summary about the company. I know that's not what you're looking for, so I skip this. The product range we offer at Unisort, that is more or less the Unisort Flake. This machine is for plastic sorting. It starts from 4 millimeter to 30 millimeter. So this machine is for the finer fractions. And then we have the standard units, which are from 10 millimeter up to 300, 350 millimeter. So we have two different machines in different working widths and different grain sizes. The camera technology in these systems is more or less the same. The reason that the machines look different is just because the need for smaller materials, you have a different approach if you want to sort them in a proper way than with coarse material. That is the reason that the machine have a different design, but the camera technology and the development behind this is more or less similar. Some products out of the Unisort range, which we put into the market over the last years, and we keep on promoting them because we realize from time to time that we are a global acting company with global sales organization, but still we suffer from time to time that everyone is aware of the products we have in the market. For example, in 2014, we launched the Unisort film machine. That is a machine that is able and was developed exactly for the separation of lightweight packaging materials, film of 2D materials. So the machine has a standard Unisort detection, but also the machine has a specially developed active object control system, which keeps the objects on a belt in a stable position. So most of you know the situation that if you have a sorting machine, you have a high belt speed of 3 meters a second. And if you want to separate, for example, films, it's difficult because the films are not stable on the belt. They tumble around, they move around. And these machines need to have a very stable material stream, and the objects need to have a stable position on the belt. Otherwise, you are not able to eject them in a proper way. And to make this happen, we developed this Unisort film machine. So there is a belt speed actually running with up to 4.5 meters. So that means 50% more belt speeds than a standard machine, and separating the films, and we can keep them stable because we developed an active object control system, which is an airflow above the material. So the material and the airflow, everything has 4.5 meters in the air tunnel. So that means that the film object itself that not really has a feeling that it is moving, because everything, the belt and the air around, is same speed. And that gives us an opportunity that the material is stopping tumbling around and flying around on the belt. So the materials are stable. And this gives a very good opportunity to separate these materials by near-infrared sorting technology. So if you want to separate films, you need something like this to make it happen. Otherwise, the throughput of your machine is very, very low. So this machine with a 4.5 meters a second belt speed has roughly 50% more throughput than a standard machine if it comes to film material. So this machine is into the market from 2016, and most bigger facilities here in Europe already adapt to this technology. So the bigger recycling facilities, they all have film sort technology. Another technology which we supported from Steinert also in 2016, that is a Unisort Black. And that is a standard near-infrared machine which is able to detect black plastics. And that is always, anyhow, the situation that we have, that people do not know about this possibility. It is possible to detect black or dark materials in a plastic facility and eject them positively out. And this machine is able to do it. The first machine we put into place was in an Alba plant at the end of the sorting line. So the waste stream and the losses of the material have been after sorted with this machine. So we know from German packaging that we roughly have 2.5 up to 3% black material in the infeed. And if we use this technology, we can reduce the waste that is going to incineration by 2 to 3% because we have a positive product, which is black plastic. This machine actually is not able to differ between the plastic kinds. That, for example, is a picture of these facilities. You see these bales. But therefore, we have another machine, which is the Unisort Black Eye. And this machine is able to differ between the plastic kinds of all colors. So black or standard colors is not an issue for this machine because that is not a near-infrared machine, that is a middle infrared machine. And that is a market which becomes bigger if we want to close recycling process circles. Then also we have black material. The application for this is not mainly the packaging waste, it is more or less in the electronic waste or in the automotive area where we see applications from customers. They want to separate their dark plastic content into PE, PP, or reduce the PVC content, and all this is possible with this technology. So that is standard. That is our standard product portfolio, which we have now for many years. And the presentation I want to show you now is what are the next steps, what is the latest thing we are working on. So if we look at the numbers of near-infrared sorters in a lightweight packaging machine, I just put a few numbers here together. So if we look at the standard setup for a lightweight packaging facility in Germany, which 100,000 tons a year in-feed, then we had in 2005 approximately 15 near-infrared sorters in this facility. Nowadays, with the same in-feed, we have the double amount of near-infrared sorters. And reason for this is that we have to face different conditions right now. We have to reach a higher recovery rate of the whole plant. And that means we need to have more recovery stations, and we have more loops inside the facility to reduce the losses. On the other hand, the latest facilities, they also have a very high demand on the purity of each product. So that means that we have different cleaning steps to realize that. And in combination with a high recovery rate, it ends up with these large volumes of machines. And these facilities are really big investments. And therefore, it was a time, or I believe it is a time, that we need to think in a different way how a near-infrared sorter could be placed in such a facility to come over the situation. So we have more machines. We have more distances between the machines, and it's a much more complex that the operator has to control. So from the size of these facilities, there comes a demand into the technology that the technology need to be more self-service and need to be more robust. We need to have a higher uptime because these are really huge investments and they have to run 24/7. And to make this happen, we at Steinert had some developments. I come later at first some examples. So this year, we put into place a facility in Belgium for Pvcu in Ghent that has 26 near-infrared machines and 3 robots, and 3 magnets and some eddy currents. And it's an 80,000 ton facility, which we had put into operation 2 years earlier, 2018 and 2019 again. That was the facility in Marl, which 58 near-infrared sorters and 4 robots, 5 eddy currents and 4 overband magnets. This facility has 200,000 tons a year, so it's the biggest facility in Europe for lightweight packaging. And one thing, this facility is fully automated. There is no hand sorting. It's completely automated sorting. There are no hand picking places. Everything is done with near-infrared technology. And to bring this facility into operation, it was a tough challenge regarding the sustainability of our products. And we had to do some developments to make this happen. I just want to step into this. That's a short movie of it, so you can get an impression about what's going on there. So it's a huge facility. So there are 6 different halls and the size of 6 football fields is that. So that is a main sorting area with magnets, eddy currents, and the near-infrared machines. That is a standard machine. So you see how the machine is working and the belt load. But that actually is a fill machine. And then we have the robots. We have 4 robots. And because of these machines, it's not necessary to have a hand picking station anymore. So this facility is completely automated. So what was necessary to make this happen? I said
We lost your audio, Hendrik. And your image is frozen. Seems like we lost you.
Oh, maybe I
Now
shut
you're back.
down my video.
No, you're back.
Okay. So we had this very high ability, which we had to reach also by the contract. And we had to develop a machine with low maintenance requirements because they have only at the weekend, they have 1 shift to do all the maintenance work. So that means that the machines have to operate during the week without any trouble. And we need to develop a
Lost you again.
in 2019. And you see in the small video here, there is a self-calibration bar. So that was something in the past, it was necessary to do a calibration, or it still is necessary to do a calibration on each near-infrared machine because the temperature will change, whatever. So every day or latest every week, you have to do a calibration. And if you have 58 machines, and each calibration will take in a best situation 5 minutes, you will have a lot of downtime doing this. So that was one step, to have a self-calibration system to have more uptime. That is part of the Evo 5 version. Then another thing is that each machine from the Evo 5 version has an identical spectral database. So that means that if you move one machine from one place to the other and you change the setup of the sorting task, the machine will do exactly the same job as the other machine which was on place before. So we can change the machines and we have one database for all the machines. So if we change something in the complete plant and we make a software update, all the machines are doing the same new performance after the update, even if you do not have to go to do single adjustments on each machine. So it is a big step forward. So it keeps away from downtime. You have more production time. And also the Evo 5 unit has the possibility to have an integrated object artificial intelligence. What this means, I will explain now. So we all know artificial intelligence and camera-based sorting systems or camera-based systems, especially from the car. So that is a picture from a car with automatic drive option. So the car is doing a scan of the surroundings and the car is doing adjustment about what is visible. So cars are evaluated in a different way than, for example, people and other obstacles in the traffic. So that is something which is common and everyone from us is used to this, and we know this from doing every day. But in the recycling industry, it's something new. So the first application we had for this was the silicon tubes, the silicon cartridges. We have the situation that in the PE fraction, the silicon tubes are an issue because we have silicon sometimes in them, and this silicon is spoiling the recycling process of the HDPE. So it's very important to keep the silicon tubes out of the HDPE fraction. And therefore, we developed this artificial intelligence filter for these silicon tubes. You can see in this movie how it is working. You see a belt with different objects on the PE belt, and you see each time a silicon tube is recognized, the system will mark it green. So you see even cutted ones, even double ones are marked here. That is in our test lab. You see a PE stream and the silicon tubes are ejected positively. So that was the first step for us that we put into place with artificial intelligence on an object basis. But the development is going further and further. And we face also situations in the market that we have, for example, here, a PE product list. And you see on the left side, the green ones, that is PE products which are fine in the PE final fraction. On the right side, the red marked object that are objects which are not allowed to be in the PE fraction anymore. That is the silicon tube, but that are also detergent products which may be toxical ingredients. So that is something which standard near-infrared machine is not able to solve, because the package itself has a standard nice, very nice HDPE signal. So the near-infrared machine will say, oh, this detergent material is HDPE, so it's target. But the artificial intelligence in the back can say, okay, it's HDPE, but probably there is some toxical material inside, so it does not have to end up in the HDPE. So we can reduce the ejection of this material in the final product. And to make this happen, really, you need artificial intelligence on an object level. Otherwise, you cannot differ with standard NER, near-infrared, between these types. And that is what we actually do. Our artificial intelligence system can be integrated in a standard near-infrared machine. So we have nowadays the option, if we put the machine together, we can combine each machine with artificial intelligence detection. And there is no extra machine. It is integrated in the standard machine from the outside. You will not see any difference. And the nice thing about this is that the development into the recognition of objects with artificial intelligence, that is something which goes up very fast. So for example, if we have a machine actually in the field which has this AI option, but it is not trained for all objects. So if we have new objects which are now trained to the AI, we can copy the new database on the old machine, and the old machine will be able to detect these objects even if the machine never has seen these objects before. So it is a developing process, and all the machines in the field are learning from the other machines. So if we have a new trained object, we can copy it onto all the other machines without going to the machine itself and do some training. It can be done all remotely. And that is a very important step for us to keep the machines alive we have in the market.
Hendrik, we have about a minute left.
Yes, that's my last slide. And that is the Unisort Unibot. You see it already in the video. That is nowadays the third version. So the first Unibot we put into place in 2018. So now it's a few years ahead. So we have different development steps in this. But all the Unisort units have still Evo 5, so that they are able to detect objects by artificial intelligence. And they have the same data analysis behind as all the standard machines. So you can cover all these data you gather from all the machines, and you can have a really good understanding about the situation which you have in your sorting plant right at the moment, if you still keep all the product qualities or if you have issues in one of the lines. So in combination with a robot, it's a very good indication to keep your facility up and running at the proper stage. So thank you for your time and for the opportunity. Hopefully you understand a few things that we are doing at Steinert. I'm happy for questions, and so thank you for the opportunity to join.
Thanks, Hendrik, and again for the spontaneity. We don't have time for questions, but you definitely, we heard several presentations during this seminar on sorting and recycling, and we still get surprised by how much we don't know, and how you can break some strong held beliefs, such as no ability to sort black plastic. And we also heard that it's still early days for AI in sorting, and now you prove that it's already commercialized actually.
Yes.
And working. So always learning, and always keeping fresh mind, and not thinking that things cannot be done. So that was really valuable. Thanks so much. And thanks, Gidon, for helping us reach Henrik. We are now at our last presentation, which was supposed to be earlier, but we had some communication problems with Dustin. And Dustin, I hope now the connection is better. So for the last presentation, again, Dustin Bowers, founder of Plex, and the floor is yours.
I think it's a great opportunity. Hopefully I'm coming through clear now.
Bit better.
I'll yeah, I'm gonna leave my video off to hopefully do a little better here. All right, so so, as many of you know, and this is why we're all here, sadly, around the world, this has become more and more the scene. Plastic waste is ending up continually everywhere in our environment, causing massive issues. And this is why we developed Plex Building Systems. We make waste a resource to build a better future. My name is Dustin Bowers, and I'm the founder of Plex Building Systems. So this is a main problem that we're solving, is plastic waste. Every year we produce over 242 million tons of plastic waste, and of that, less than 10% is recycled. It's in our yards, beaches, lakes, and rivers. It's killing wildlife and causing major ecological issues. The other issue we have at hand is traditional building materials. Over half of all resources extracted globally go into construction. And every year we produce close to 2.2 billion tons of construction waste. And of that, less than 25 to 48% is recycled. Many of these products have huge carbon footprints, and things like stick frame construction have led to deforestation and ecological collapse. Now, to add to this, we have a rising cost of building materials, only compounded by the industry average of about 30% waste on every job site. We also have a rising lack of skilled labor, with the older generation who've grown up in the trades starting to retire now. We're finding it harder and harder to find skilled workers to build houses of the future. And this is our solution. We turn garbage into a resource through our innovative brick and panel system that's zero waste, no cut, fully interlocking, and reusable. We use a unique composite and processing method to do this. So what goes into them? Well, primarily we're focusing on agricultural plastic, marine plastic, and some industrial plastic sources. We are working towards municipal plastic, but there are major industry challenges to this due to the heavily contaminated and highly mixed nature of it. And it's exciting to see many startups solving these problems. We're also dealing with construction waste, something that is near and dear to me, and we're able to make a serious impact in this. We're dealing with these piles. We need to make nature beautiful again. We shouldn't have piles like this laying and polluting our environment. And what we use them for. Initial sales for Plex bricks are for retaining walls and other non-occupied structures. We're in the process right now going through lab testing, and we're targeting full certification by 2023 or 2024 for full residential use. Right now, we're working on projects like retaining walls, flood walls, farming bays for manure, for silage, and other purposes like this that are high impact, high moisture, and people want to get a high ROI from their product. We're making buildings simple. Our initial products are limited in their scope, but we have literally hundreds of products planned to expand into this industry and our brand new brick and panel system. Our initial sales are through manufacturing here in New Brunswick. We're in the process of finalizing to get our first production facility up and running. And we'll initially be producing a limited scope of sizes. And as we scale up, we'll bring on more and more products every year. We're already working with partners internationally to set up agreements for production. We're looking at expanding specifically into countries where large waste issues are present. We're looking into Africa and Southeast Asia, but this is a global issue. We're looking to work with production partners in order to create efficiencies and license this product across the world. As we grow, we intend to bring in more and more technology like plug and play solar and other special finishes, and eventually fully integrated electrical and plumbing systems. Our main competition right now are traditional building materials and methods, things like concrete, brick, and timber framing. Here in North America, we've seen a huge uprise in insulated concrete forms, or ICFs, and the market has really been adopting these very quickly. And we look at this as a metric to gauge how our product will see market adoption. There are also many new green building material companies on the horizon, many of which are trying to solve different problems within the industry, but none of which have our composite or our style. Our products are eco-friendly. We're made of over 90% recycled material, with some of our products being 100% recycled. We're a patent pending system. We have patent coverage in Canada and the United States, and a PCT application for international. We have a simple, first in the world brick and panel system. Surprisingly, nobody's ever done this before. And it's an ingenious method that allows us to bring in our skills as cabinet makers and joinery into something that's scalable to build full wall systems with. It's unique yet intuitive, and it streamlines the entire build process. The system is working towards automation, and it's perfect automation. We have an amazing team that continues, and we've already brought on more team members. Now, there's me and my 18 years in the construction industry, and I've been working on job sites since I could walk. I've a passion for building and turned it into something that we can use to solve the world's problems. Is our awesome manager. She has years of experience working with changes. We have Abhinav, who is a skilled animator, rendering, doing amazing digital arts. And Matt, who has been an amazing asset. Oh, are you having issues?
Yeah, I'm afraid the audio is broken again, but let's try again, because maybe now it's better.
Oh, can you hear me? Where did I cut out there?
No, that's perfect. Just the last 20 seconds.
And then we have our advisors. We have some amazing advisors who've really been helping us hone in and focus what we're doing with this, bring it down to our minimum viable product, and get us ready to scale up and into scale production. We have some amazing people with years of experience in the industry, like Larry and James and Bernie, who are really helping us to bring this product to scale production. Some amazing support, and this is just a few of the company startups and accelerators that have been partnering with us. We have a few strategic partnerships, and we are very excited to continue growing the network around us. Our milestone last year, we had the grant. We got a bunch of grants solidified. We finalized our IP. We were finalists in a couple of accelerators, designed and finished our first prototype equipment. This year, we launched our social media campaigns, our website. We've won 3 accelerators so far, Volta and Spark, and we're in 2 more accelerators currently. We did our initial lab testing, which gave us our basic material parameters, and we're now beginning our phase 2 lab testing to get into full structure testing systems. We've raised our first testing round, our pre-seed financing, which we overfunded. And now in about 2 to 3 weeks, we will be producing, which is a very exciting time. As we move forward, we're aiming to set up our first scale production facility early next year. Successful of seed round in works. Further into the future, we need to automate.
Dustin, I'm afraid it's again very difficult to understand the audio. Perhaps you can mention the last slide and focus our efforts and energy to make it audible.
Yes, I will slow my. Hopefully that helps.
No, it's still broken. Still broken. Very hard to follow. If there is anything you want us to see, at least the video is working.
Currently, we're preparing to launch our seed round on October 28th. We will be featured through Volta Labs Investor Showcase. We would invite you to reach out to us if you're interested. I'd love to set up chats. We're looking for strategic partners to help expand internationally, and interested parties who may be interested in becoming production partners. Let's make our
So we hear that you're looking
forward to hearing
for.
from you guys.
We hear that you're looking for, because you're broken again, we hear that you're looking for industrial partners for production and for investors. And yes, if we have your contact details here, then people can, no, leave the last slide, please.
Oh.
So people can reach out to you, because video is on, and we can, if you can leave the last slide with your contact details, that would be perfect. And if people want to reach you, they can always do that either directly at this email that is about to come up, or through us. Yes, perfect. Dustin@blikes.ca. Awesome. I'm really sorry that the audio is broken and that we couldn't have a smooth transmission, but I think we got more than the gist, and it's very encouraging to see. I mean, we've heard from the biggest household names in recycling and sorting. So it's encouraging to see and refreshing to see a startup also making some waves and moves in the sector. And definitely, at least in Israel, the plastic construction problem, plastic waste in construction is a major problem. I think it's one of the biggest sections of plastic waste. It's in construction, and if we could replace the embodied carbon in construction with waste plastic, that would definitely be part of the solution.
Absolutely. And according to our initial calculations, each one of these bricks, which will be a 16 by 8 by 8 size, so standard North American construction sizes, we're looking at about 42 kilograms of CO2 per brick.
It's really hard, Dustin, to understand what you're saying. Still, the connection is broken, unfortunately. But again, we'll be happy to connect anybody offline that wants to get more information. Maybe it's the early hours also for the Wi-Fi in Canada.
It's very strange. Can you hear me with my video off here now that I've stopped the share?
Yes, now it's better. Yes.
Okay. So one of the big advantages with our product is we are able to use material that is unusable in other systems. Because of the nature of our composite, we're able to use more contaminated material than any other system that we've seen on the market. We are a very unique composite that is essentially like a plasticized concrete. We have all of the value of concrete, so a compressive value of up to 20 megapascals, but our impact, we have up to 2,500 megapascals on our modular elasticity. So a massive impact ratio. We have a 0.37% water absorption on our material compared to 8 to 12% on concrete or 18% with clay brick. So this material is very waterproof, very impact resistant, and can be made from fairly heavily contaminated materials, which is something that is breaking the mold. And our product is circular in design. So we don't see this anywhere in the system. And as somebody who grew up in the building industry, every other option out there is single use. You build it, it's done, you tear it apart, and it becomes waste. With our product, you build it. Once it's reached its life cycle as the structure that you wanted, you take it apart and you can build something new with it. Disassembly and circular design are the future of construction, because no structure is built and stays as it is. People always want to modify it. And we've actually been reaching out and working with some fintech companies, exploring the possibility of expansion set sales, where we develop sets. So say you have a starter house or a starter structure, you purchase that, you get it financed. Now you got married. Okay, you need to expand.
Yeah,
so you buy the
we're in the last moment, so the benefits are definitely understood, and the circularity of that is definitely understood. And and that's an interesting proposal. And definitely, if there's anybody here from the construction industry or from decision makers that are doing construction projects and can specify for these raw materials in the building construction, that's a great opportunity. I do have many questions on adherence to standards, but unfortunately we don't have time for that, so we might take that offline. Thanks. So we are 5 minutes late to our schedule, but But thanks a lot for you, Dustin, for joining at this early hour, and thanks for everybody that stayed all the way through today. Tomorrow we are on the last day of the webinar, and that day is dedicated to decision makers. So we are mainly catering to decision makers in the local and national level. And we're going to talk about deposit return systems and EPRs and how to get consumers and industry incentivized to use recycled plastics. And we are even going to talk about models for cities to become towards zero waste. So welcome to join us for the last day again tomorrow, 10 a.m. Israel time, 9 a.m. European time. Thanks for joining today. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dustin.